So let's move on to the subject of why managers are your best asset. So we've obviously set up this webinar suggesting that this is the case, that line managers really are your very best friends in this process. So why do we say that? Well, it's really for a very straightforward reason, which is that both management and performance management is a really hands-on task. Setting objectives in changing circumstances, having these conversations, giving feedback, it's all really, really hands-on stuff. So how do you spot and handle your comedic, I'm exaggerating for a purpose, your superheroes, your performance management superheroes and your villains? And we have our three images here of our superhero with her cape on, and then our comedy villain with his criminal vest on, and our very good everyday line manager. And what I want to do here is help you kind of really picture, as I speak, your different types of managers, the different compartment, different types of managers, your enlightened advocate and your willing and trainable majority, and your what we describe as sometimes your accidental line managers, those guys who probably wish they were never in a management role in the first place, and you also agree with that. And what I'm going to do in the next couple of slides is I've got a table that I'm going to build up to show you a bit of a view on what each of these types might be doing and might be saying, and what you as an HR professional might want to do to get the very best from them, and how you might want to train them. So let's start with our superhero, the enlightened advocate, the guy or the girl that we all would love to have more of, because they just have this amazing kind of fairy dust within our organizations. And what they'll probably be doing is managing their people with a really naturally collaborative management style. They'll view that as why they are so successful. It's not sort of an adjunct to their success, it's why they're successful. And these are the kind of, they'll either be, they won't probably be literally saying it, but they'll be thinking, just trust me, I kind of know how to do this stuff, let me get on with it. So the watchwords for these guys: release them, empower them, cross-fertilize their ideas, and really celebrate their success, because they are so valuable. And I'll let you have a quick read of what I'd suggest is your job to do with these guys. So I guess the point is to really, make the most of them, not just to keep them effective within their own teams, but also wherever possible to communicate and crystallize what they're doing and how it's working, so that you can really share that across the wider community of managers in your organization. And the training approach we'd suggest: so make sure that your training aids are really readily available. They may not need them often, and you might need to be prepared to be quite hands-off with them, because they'll probably ask you for support, but you can kind of trust that they're doing it right. So on to the willing and trainable majority, and I hope that they are your majority. Well, it'd be even better if you had a whole bunch of superheroes, but I'm hoping most people are at least getting it pretty well right. So these guys they'll be getting on with it. They'll be delivering effective performance management, and they'll probably be kind of thinking, let me, help me to do it right. So your job is to remind them and refresh them, and to inspire competence and confidence, and really to make sure that training aids are really easy for them to find and to use, and to communicate any success stories they've got, but also, as I said, to partner them up with your enlightened advocates. And make sure that the training is both user-friendly and easy to access, but also really, really practical. So what about your villains? Your kind of accidental line manager. You've probably all got an image of one or two of them in your mind, of the kind of guys that maybe got there because that was the way to get higher up the ladder, or to get more money, but kind of never really wanted to be in a line management position in the first place. And these are the guys that I'd say you can probably make the biggest single difference to, if you really work out how to handle them. It's because they'll be kind of missing in action. They're not probably invested properly in performance management at all. And they'll either be saying, I don't have time for this non-core activity, because they won't see it as a really important part of their job, or worse, maybe that it's your fault that HR says I need to talk to you about this. So the keywords for these guys, I'd say, is to coax them and cajole them, to coach them to do it right, but also to challenge them quite strongly of whether they're in the right role, to be honest. So your job to explain what's in it for them. It's really not fluffy for all the reasons that we've been talking about, but also to clarify that it actually is their job. It's not a peripheral additional part of their job. It is fundamentally their job. And maybe to understand what's really going on for them. So is it can't do, or is it won't do? Because can't do is potentially easier to solve, because that's potentially a training issue that you might need to handle in quite an individualistic way. But if it's can't do, it won't do, then that's potentially more of a problem. But also I'd suggest that you might want to, again, maybe a bit like a marketeer, put them on a 4-box grid of plotting their impact versus their influence. So where an accidental line manager is both high impact and high influence, they're maybe quite senior and they have big teams, these guys really matter, because they are having a huge detrimental impact in your organization, potentially. So you really want to minimize, you really want to work with these guys and understand what's really going on for them and coach them in quite an individual way. But in terms of the others, your job maybe is to minimize their damage, to maybe help move them into individual contributor roles, but maybe not spend too much energy on them if they're quite low influence and low impact, but also potentially to be quite strong about, if you're not in the right role, maybe it's time to find a different type of role in this organization, or worse, elsewhere. So as I said, the target may be a very bespoke and targeted approach, because for particularly the high influence, high impact ones, it might need a quite high touch impact in order to have the high gain that you need to have with these guys.